Alps to Hakataramea is a ride that uses part of the Alps to ocean. So it starts up in Mount Cook and traditionally heads all the way through to the coast. Our ride that we did turns off at a place called Kurow and then uses the Hakataramea Valley to head north back to Lake Tekapo to complete a loop.
So the idea for the ride came from me knowing about the Alps to Ocean Trail and being pretty keen to give that a go. Although it wasn't really our kind of style where we like to camp and keep things pretty simple, whereas I think mostly it's more of a tourist trail where people use pubs and accommodation along the way. So we found online some information about the Hakataramea Valley and could see that that would form a loop back to Tekapo. So we sort of looked at some maps and came up with the idea of being able to do it as a self-supported loop back to our original start spot.
So we started today on the Alps to Ocean, our little bikepacking adventure. So we started out at Lake Tekapo this morning. We've just stopped for a little bit of a break here at Lake Bikepacking with a view of Mount Cook and the Southern Alps in the background. We're going to ride through on the Alps to Ocean through to Kurow, and then rather than continue all the way to the coast, we're going to loop back up the Hakataramea Valley back to Lake Tekapo. Yeah, the first day was probably the highlight for me. We sort of ride along and follow the Southern Alps. Really good views of Mount Cook on the first day. So we made it to our camp tonight at Lake Middleton. So we came down a lot of canal roads, like down from Lake Bikepacking and Lake Ohow, I think it's called. And then we just followed in Lake Ohow. There was a bit of a single track to Lake Middleton here, where we've set up on the lake and cooking some dinner. So we did about 90 k's today, which was a pretty big first day, and yeah, we're both pretty tired.
The good stuff.
That's what you need.
Couple of those every night.
Couple of those every night. Wake up and can walk again.
Alright, day 2. Today we're heading away from Lake Ohow and uphill for a while, and then down through Quailburn campsite into Omarama, which will be our food stock up spot for the next couple of days. And then we're going to continue on to a place called Sailor's Cutting, which is a campsite on the lake, which should be a nice spot to stop. That day was where we started to realise that maybe the hire bikes weren't the quality that we had thought we had hired. Initially when we hired them, they looked not so bad. The panniers we knew was going to be a bit of a negative thing, but at least we could carry all of the gear that we needed.
Just doing a few running repairs. We certainly had a lot of things coming loose on the bikes as well. Preparing the torture machine for the descent. You'd be riding along and you'd look back and there's a pannier back on the road behind you. The Alps to Ocean Trail is set up to use towns, and I guess you can do the ride fairly easy if you're prepared to buy lunch and buy dinner and even stay in accommodation. We weren't prepared to do it that way, and we wanted to do it our own style and our own pace. Is this how most people do the Alps to Ocean, do you think? With tuna in a ditch on the side of the road? Obviously the trade-off of that is not always having a nice spot for lunch.
Alright, day 2 of the Alps to Hakataramea ride. We have ridden from Lake Ohau. We went up the hill for quite a long time and then came downhill on some sort of sketchy, gravelly, rocky sections. And then we've ridden out along Lake Benmore and are camped here for the night.
So along the Alps to Ocean there are these things called squeeze barriers, which are basically these features to stop motorbikes and other users on the trail. But they also ended up stopping bike users from being able to easily pass through. As possible. Hopefully we've got lots of those today.
Barely pedal the stupid bike.
This is Terry Torture. And Terry Torture, probably the worst part about him is getting through the so-called squeeze barriers on the Alps to Ocean that they seem to have put every 2 kilometres. This time we've also got a cattle grid just to make it more fun. Not sure what they're expecting on this trail. The cattle grid is just a really good feature though.
So the ride on day 3 was really cool. I really enjoyed the fact that it was all single track, and it felt a little bit more remote than maybe the first few sections. It basically just followed the dam and all these little lake systems. We were just on the side of the hill most of the day, just winding around. It was quite fun riding.
Alright, we've just got to Benmore Dam. Just come through the hills on a really fun single track section. It was a bit uphill at times, but the downhills were worth it, so that was really fun. Alright, so it's the end of day 3. So it's been a pretty short day today. It was only about 45 kilometres.
So we're heading into Kurow today on day 4. We spent the night last night just down here at Fisherman's Bend, and we had a pretty short day yesterday, so it was nice just to relax in camp a little bit. We're going to head down and hopefully get some decent food, maybe some breakfast or something, and do a bit of a restock of food for a couple of days. And then after Kurow we're going to head we're actually going to head off of the Alps to Ocean and head up the Hakataramea Valley.
Alright, we've just got some food in Kurow and a delicious fish burger and chips, and now we're going to leave the Alps to Ocean Trail and head to the Hakataramea Valley. So this is the turn off for us to head into the valley, which we're going to do over 2 days. We're going to stay overnight about halfway along, and then yeah, we're going to head back into Tekapo to make a loop.
When we were planning our ride originally, the Hakataramea Valley came up as, I guess, quite an obstacle to get through. So it's a big remote valley, doesn't receive really any traffic, and so we had it in the back of our minds that it was going to be a pretty big day.
So we were sitting in Twizel on the day one, and originally we'd planned that the last day through the Hakataramea was going to be one big push, over 100 kilometres of unknown terrain, I guess. And in Twizel, we just happened to see that there was actually an Airbnb halfway along the Hakataramea Valley.
So we're halfway up the Hakataramea Valley, and we had an Airbnb. Just happened to find one here last night in the middle of nowhere with Kate and Russell. So today we've got to head all the way up the valley, up the Hakataramea Pass, up to Lake Tekapo. So we're getting an early start today. We've got about 75 kilometres, but it's pretty hot weather, and yeah, we're keen to make an early start. So that'll be day 5 for us, and then we'll be back at the car and potentially going to extend the ride. We're not quite sure just yet. It was a steady climb up towards Hakataramea Pass. So we're just still heading up the valley, and we're just starting to get views of the Hakataramea Pass. We can just see it in the distance, and yeah, just getting a bit of an idea of how much climbing we've got to go. Fortunately, on the other side, of course, we should get a decent descent, but yeah, decent climb up the valley. Fortunately, it's not hot yet, at least. We're at the top.
Woohoo! We made it to the pass.
Made it to the pass.
And it's worth it.
It was worth it. It's a lot of work to get up here. Fair bit of walking.
Stupid bikes.
Fair bit of complaining. And lots of snacks to get up here. But it was worth it because we can see mountains. At the top of the pass, we got a view once again of the Southern Alps. And so once we climbed up to the pass, we then had a steady descent down and looking out over the Southern Alps and Mount Cook. We arrived onto the highway basically. So we've come out the Hakataramea Valley and we've just hit the main highway into Lake Tekapo. And from there we had 14 kilometres on the tourist highway into Lake Tekapo where we finished.
How did it feel finishing on the highway?
So I guess we'd sort of been living this experience just by ourselves, and then I guess we come out the Hakataramea Valley and all of a sudden we were surrounded by cars and motorhomes, and the reward for finishing the ride in Lake Tekapo was a swim. So the trail follows the lake for most of the day, and from a few people that we've spoken to, they said that this is a pretty good section, so we're looking forward to it. That's a lie, we're not looking forward to it.